Hey there, fish keepers. Dean here. Just thought I'd share my Fluval Spec 5 scape with you. I'm super impressed with how it turned out. This is a low-tech scape, so no CO2 and no additives at all. It's just using fish waste to grow the plants. And it's taken me a while to come up with a scape that had longevity in a Spec 5 that was also low maintenance, where I could just throw in fish and grow them up. So, not all of them have been successful. It grows moss really well, so low light requiring to moderate light requiring to plants. You can see here I have a shrimp tank set up. I grew a lot of shrimp in this tank, but nothing super beautiful. I modified it with some Vallisneria nana, but wasn't overly happy with the look. But I like the addition of the rocks in there. That was pretty cool. But with the moss, it just lifts and it's a lot of maintenance. The tanks really do well for, the inhabitants. It has a good filtration system. The light is well balanced on it. And the tank is big enough for smaller species like CPDs or Chiliresboras, Endler guppies, um, and shrimp, of course. It does really well with shrimp. And you can see here that the rocks really look cool in this tank with the way that they're accumulating that spot algae. I, I needed a tank to grow a baby Corydoras in, and I took these CPD out, added them back to their colony. They'd been taken out of a 75-gallon tank, which was quite a chore to get them out. Uh, but I needed this tank to grow up little baby cories, and I wanted a tank that I could film in. So what I did was I cleaned out that tank, vacuumed out the gravel, and put in some crypt parva in between the rocks in that tank, and it turned out really great. I really liked it. So when I'm going through the tank here, you can see how the parva is growing in between the rocks. And what I was trying to do was get pictures of little Corydoras garryi sitting on the leaves of the crypt parva. And I thought that it turned out really great. So the tank itself, if I was to take a whole picture of this tank, doesn't look fantastic because I really didn't have it quite dialed in as to the style that I wanted with it. But it worked for what I was doing with the little Corydoras garryi. They were landing on leaves and giving me good photo ops, which was the main goal with this tank, besides raising them up. It definitely wasn't catching them out of there because they were really hard to catch. I basically had to take the whole tank apart, which turned into the next iteration of the tank. But these guys had to go out into a bigger tank. I moved them into a 75 later on so that they could grow out. They needed more room because they're a fish that gets fairly big. And I had a lot of them. But the tank itself, after I rescaped it, once the little cories came out of there, I figured, I'll put lutea in the back corner and kind of cover up where the filter is and add the Ledwigia rubra into there. And I thought it turned out really great. Unfortunately, the light that came with the Spec tank gave out, so I had to replace it with a Walmart light. But you can see I've had 6 Spec tanks. You can see there's an actual factory light on it. But I've had to replace all of the lights. Within about 3 years, they've all gone. I had one that went within a year, which isn't super cool. So that would be my main criticism of the Fluval Spec 5 is that the light gives out. But when it does work, it grows low light requiring to moderate light requiring plants really well. This is my Suswasser Tang mothership. It works awesome. And I think that the scape that I created from the Corydoras photo tank looks really great now too. I think the triangular scape for this tank is the way to go. It looks great, I think, because it covers up most of the side. Since that time, I haven't been buying spec tanks once all the lights went on them. So I've moved over to these aquatop tanks that are 20 by 40 by 60, but they're a bit tougher to skate because they're taller, and more expensive too, but they do work good. So for the escape, I just used black sand, with no additives, no root tabs, and no water column fertilization. It's just fish waste that's feeding the plants. And I basically just put the parva in between rocks, kind of stacked the back corner with Crypt and a little bit of Crypt which is in the back and you probably can't see. There was also a little bit of Vallisneria nana left over in there too, so there's a few sprigs of that. And then I stuffed the Ludwigia rubra into these spaces in between so that I could have some nice red highlights in it. And it's been doing really well. I get minimal hair algae in it, even with this light, which I purchased from Walmart. It's just a run of the mill generic light. It's a little bit stronger than what the spec light would be. So I do get a little bit more hair algae than what I'd want. There's also fair bit of nutrients in there too. So the extra light adds to that. But if the light that came with the tank was still working, I think I would have much less of a hair algae issue because that light was really well balanced. So Fluval did an excellent job with the filtration on this tank. The quality of the tank is, good. They've been holding up really well. And the design is excellent. It's a really nice looking tank. But the lights, I've had 6 of them and 5 have burnt out within 3 years. One burnt out within a year. So I think that if Fluval wants to keep going with this line, I would strongly recommend improving the light on it, the longevity on it. I usually get about 5 years out of LEDs. So please, Fluval, do better. Happy fish keeping.